Next type of transformation we're going to talk about today is a rotation. Now, a rotation is when we turn our image around, or we rotate it around a point. We turn it around a point called the center of rotation, and we turn it a certain number of degrees, which is what we call the angle of rotation. So let's go ahead and scroll down here to this first example. It says identify the transformations. So thus far we've talked about translations, which is when we slide the image. We've talked about reflections, which is when we flip the image over. And now we're going to talk about rotations. So the first thing we want to be able to do is, just in a very general sense, we want to be able to recognize when figures have been rotated, when they've been reflected, and when they've been translated, and differentiate between the three. So our first task here is going to be to identify the transformation as either a reflection, a rotation, or a translation. So number one here, the red figure is flipped to get the blue image, so that means we have a reflection for that transformation. The second example there, the red figure gets rotated, gets turned to make the blue image, so that is a rotation. And the third image, our red figure gets slid to make the blue image, so that is a translation. So first thing we want to be able to do is differentiate between those three types of transformations. Okay. Let's scroll down here and let's talk about how we can rotate figures on the coordinate plane. How do we rotate the figure? How do we find the new coordinates of the image? So a real quick refresher. We can rotate clockwise or counterclockwise. Clockwise is rotating to the right. And if we rotate it one turn, that's 90 degrees. 2 turns is 180 degrees. 3 turns is 270 degrees. Counterclockwise is the other way. We rotate it to the left. So 1 turn to the left is 90 degrees counterclockwise. 2 turns to the left is 180 degrees counterclockwise. 3 turns to the left is 270 degrees counterclockwise. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll talk about how we can do these rotations on a coordinate plane. So today it's actually going to involve, we're actually going to go in and we are going to rotate our image, and the program's being a little weird here, so I'm going to go ahead and have to erase this so we can go ahead and perform our rotations here. So number one says rotate the figure 90 degrees clockwise about the origin. So we are going to physically rotate our paper 1 turn to the right. So our paper is going to be sideways here. Okay. Making this now our x-axis, and this becomes our y-axis here for the time being. And we want to give the new coordinates of J, K, and L. So the new coordinates of J are right 4, up 5. So that's the point 4, 5. And those are going to be the coordinates of J prime, 4, 5. We'll see if this will work here. J prime is going to be the coordinates 4, 5. Okay. K prime, or our new coordinates for K are right 3, up 2, or 3, 2. So those are going to be the coordinates for K prime. And our coordinates for L prime are right 1, up 4. So that makes L prime right 1, up 4. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and rotate our page back up the correct way and go ahead and plot these new points. So 4, 5 is J prime. 3, 2 is K prime, and 1, 4 is L prime. And there we have our rotated image. So let me go ahead and label them here. J prime, K prime, and L prime. Okay. Scrolling over here to number 2. I'm going to have to erase this. For some reason the program's being a little difficult today. So I'm going to erase that first one. And let's go ahead and do this rotation in number 2. It says rotate the figure 90 degrees counterclockwise about the origin. So 90 degrees counterclockwise means we are going to turn our page, turn the entire page one turn to the left. And when we turn it one turn to the left, we're going to go ahead and get our new coordinates for J, K, and L. So the coordinates for J are left 4, down 5. So that means J prime is going to be -4 and -5. Okay. The new coordinates for K are left 3 and down 2. So that's -3, -2. Those are going to be our coordinates for K prime. And the new coordinates for L here are -1, left 1, down 4. So that's -1, -4. And if we go ahead and let's go ahead and rotate, we'll turn our figure or our page here the correct way and plot those new points to get our rotated image. So J prime is -4, -5. That's J prime. K prime is -3, -2. And J prime is -1, -4. And if we connect the dots here, there's our rotated image 90 degrees counterclockwise or 90 degrees left. On the second page here, number 3 asks us to rotate the figure 180 degrees clockwise about the origin. So 180 degrees, it doesn't matter if we turn the page right or left. We're going to turn it 2 times so that our image, our page is completely upside down. Okay. Now that our page is completely upside down, we can find the new coordinates of Q, U, and L, and that will give us the coordinates of Q prime, U prime, and L prime. So the new coordinates of Q, to get to Q, we have to go 1 left and 1, 2, 3 down. So that's -1, -3. So the coordinates for Q are going to be -1, -3. And you can just write them off to the side somewhere and copy them into the correct spots later. The coordinates for U are over 0, up 1. So that's the point 0, 1. And that means 0, 1 is going to be the coordinates for U prime. The coordinates for L here are going to be -1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -1, left 5, down 1. So L prime is going to be -5, -1. Okay. If we go ahead and rotate our page back up, right side up, we can plot these new points. So let's start with Q, -1, -3 will give us our Q prime. And 0, 1 will give us our U prime. And -5, -1 will give us our L prime. And when we connect the dots here, we get our rotated image 180 degrees. One last example of a rotation here. Number 4 says rotate the figure 270 degrees counterclockwise about the origin. So we are going to rotate our page 3 times to the left. So here's 1. There's our second turn. And here's our third turn. And now we're going to give the new coordinates of Q, U, and L. So the new coordinates of Q are right 1, 2, 3, down 1. So that's the point 3, negative 1, which gives us our coordinates for Q prime. Our new coordinates for U are left 1, up 0, so that's negative 1, 0. And our new coordinates for L are right 1, down 5, so that's 1, negative 5. So now we can go ahead and rotate our page the correct way, right side up, and plot our prime points there. So Q is going to be 3. Q prime is 1, 2, 3, negative 1. So there's our coordinates for Q prime. U prime is negative 1, 0, so that's left 1, up 0. And L prime is 1, negative 5, so right 1, down 5. And if we connect our dots here, we get our rotated image. Okay. So when we're doing rotations, we're going to physically rotate our paper to find the new coordinates, write them down, and then we can flip our paper right side up and plot those points. Okay. Another skill that we want to be able to do is identify or describe the rotation. So number 5 says describe the rotation from BUYK to B prime, U prime, Y prime, K prime. So when we describe our rotations, we're going to give a degree and a direction. So we want to get from the black shape here to the red shape. We are rotating to the right, so that's clockwise. To get from here to here, we're going like a clock, right? We're going to the right. So we know we are going clockwise. Okay. And we're going from about a majority of our shape in the first coordinate to a majority of our shape in the fourth coordinate here. So that's just a 90-degree turn. So our rotation there is 90 degrees clockwise. Number 6, describe the rotation from BXN to B prime, X prime, N prime. So to go from the black shape to the red shape here, we are going counterclockwise. We're rotating left there, counterclockwise. Okay. And once again, we're just doing one turn. So you notice if we were to turn this black image, or if we turned our whole page, it would take one turn to the left for our black image to be where that red image was. So that is a 90 degrees counterclockwise rotation. And we could actually describe this rotation in one other way if we wanted to. Okay, a 90 degrees clockwise, we could rotate this black image to the right, and it would eventually end up where the red image is, or that black figure would eventually end up where the red image is. If we went to the right or went clockwise, it would just take 1, 2, 3 turns instead. So 90 degrees counterclockwise is the same as 270 degrees clockwise. Okay, either one of those answers would work. It'd be excellent if you could identify both answers there. Couple more examples here. Describe the rotation of U, X, S to U prime, S prime, X prime. So how do we get from this black figure here to the blue image? Now that, it doesn't matter. We could rotate it right or left to get there. And it's going to be 180 degrees. So regardless of what direction we go, we can just say it is a 180 degree rotation. And all of our rotations today are about the origin. So that's a 180 degree rotation about the origin, which means the origin is our center of rotation. Okay. Last example here, number 8, we're going to complete a couple different transformations on the same coordinate plane. So our first part here says rotate the figure 180 degrees about the origin. So to find the coordinates for A prime, J prime, and I prime, we're going to physically rotate our page 1, 2 times to the right or 2 times to the left. It doesn't matter. Okay. And we are going to give the new images of, or the new coordinates of A, J, and I. So the coordinates for A are right 5, down 1. So that is the point 5, -1. That is going to be the coordinates for the image A prime, 5, -1. The coordinates for J are right 5, down 5, so that's 5, -5. Those are going to be the new coordinates for J prime. And the coordinates for I are right 1, down 2. So the coordinates for I prime are going to be 1, -2. So let's go ahead and we will start by creating the image A prime, J prime, I prime. We can go ahead and rotate our page back right side up and plot those points. So A prime is 5, -1. J prime is 5, -5. I prime is 1, -2. And there is our rotated image 180 degrees. Clockwise or counterclockwise, it doesn't matter in this case. Our second transformation asks us to reflect that image, A prime, J prime, I prime, that red image we just made there, over the y-axis. So let's go ahead and identify our y-axis as our line of reflection, and we're going to now flip those points over to the other side. So to find A double prime, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps right here to get from A to the line of reflection. So we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps the other way. That will give us A double prime. I prime is 1 step from the line of reflection, so 1 step the other way will give us I double prime. And J is 5 steps here from the line of reflection, or 5 units, so 5 units the other way is going to give us J double prime. So if we go ahead and connect the dots there, there's our second image that's now been reflected over the y-axis there. Let's really quickly go ahead and give those image points. So that's the point. A double prime is -5, -1. J double prime is -5, -5. And I double prime is -1, -2. So notice when we flip that image over the y-axis, all we're doing is changing the signs of our x coordinates there. +5 became -5, +5 became -5, +1 became -1. And the y coordinates all stayed the same there. That's another thing that you might be able to pick up on. What are the patterns? What happens to the coordinates of those points and their images when we perform these different types of transformations?